Welcome back to The Detail. I'm your host, Stephen O'Callaghan, Creative Director at iSteel, where we design and manufacture bespoke steel and glass doors here in the UK. Today I'm joined by legendary interior designer and TV presenter Linda Barker, someone who's been influencing the way we think about our homes and interiors for decades. Here's my conversation with Linda Barker. Linda, welcome to The Detail.
Thank you, Detail. Thank you for coming to my house and having a little look around, see what I'm up to.
So I've got an icebreaker question for you. Coffee or cold water swimming?
Oh, cold water swimming.
Yeah.
You knew I'd say that.
I did. I did some research before I came.
It's a passion.
How did you get into cold water swimming?
Well, I've always swum, even as a kid. I've always chucked myself into cold water, like river swimming. You know, any bit of water, like, I'm in.
Is it good for your, actually physically for your body or more for your mind?
It's good for your mind, but it's good for your immune system. It is supposed to really release all those feel-good factors, endorphins and dopamines, and you come out with a little natural high, especially if it's very cold. Like we swim in the ice as well, so we break the ice. It's got loads and loads of health benefits.
I'll have to try it, I guess. No, you sold it to me.
Just come along, it'll be fine.
I bet it's quite a shock to walkers, and they're walking along, and also Linda Barker comes crawling out of the water.
Well, it's not a great look. I've got a big hat on. I've got, I don't wear a wetsuit, but I've got neoprene gloves and feet. So, and the water's a bit like, oh. So it's not glamorous. It's definitely not glamorous. But yeah, you feel amazing.
So when did your passion for interiors really begin?
Oh, my goodness. A passion for interiors started really when I was a small child. And I never knew there was a career to be had in interior design because I grew up on a farm. There was 5 kids. We were very outdoorsy, very practical, a lot of help on the farm with my mum and dad. But I found myself as a kid really being drawn to the aesthetic of an interior. So, when my mum painted the living room, I was really I couldn't believe how much change could happen with a tin of paint. So I was very curious about all of that. And I think when I was a young teenager, maybe 12, I remember decorating my grandma's house. It was a big Victorian house in Bradford. Really saying to her, can I come and decorate your house? Can I wallpaper, Can I paint? She goes, well, yeah, of course, as a way of just earning money in the summer. So that was when I was really kind of young, 12. You were up a ladder wallpapering. And I just loved how you could transform spaces. So it fascinated me. And I was always artistic. So I went to art college and I ended up doing massive drawings and paintings, like mural size. So scale didn't really bother me, and I was very experimental and very much into colour. And I was sewing loads of things, I was painting loads of things, I was renovating, I was painting furniture. And eventually the penny dropped and I thought, it's interior design that I should be doing. And I'd been doing it all my life.
Well, that leads me to the next question I was going to say to you. How does a Yorkshire lass end up on national television?
Well, I got a call from one of the producers at a production company saying they were thinking of doing an interior design programme, which again hadn't happened on TV before. It was one of the first programmes to ever, take interior design as a kind of, a genre. So I got pulled in with a lot of people because my work had been in some magazines. So they'd seen the magazines, pulled me in with a whole tranche of people that they were interviewing, and just got shortlisted, screen tested, and got the job.
And it's launched your career, really, hasn't it, I suppose, would you say?
Launched my career in a very different way because obviously TV wasn't in my sights, but I found that it was great. I loved it. I loved working very quickly, changing an interior around within 2 days, initially on changing rooms, and then, subsequently on 60-minute makeovers, we would do them in a day. So yeah, it's exciting, and I can work quickly and I can work on my feet, and it was just entirely enjoyable from start to finish.
And I suppose that kind of environment, when you're under pressure and you've got to do something quickly, you don't really have time to and ah. So you're kind of forced to make big, bold decisions. So you can really see that in like your kind of aesthetic as you've grown, that you are afraid to make.
I love making, I love creating and experimenting. With anything like this house, which we've renovated recently, it's a long-term project. So I wouldn't even dream of kind of thinking that I can do a big house in a matter of days. It takes sometimes years. But the thing about television, it is like that. It is very high, fast turnover and very thrilling and to work on.
Did you know that change rooms was going to be such a big phenomenon when you first started on it, or were you just literally riding that wave and just thought, oh, it sounds like fun, I'll give it a go?
Obviously you don't know, but you get a sense of how the program is sitting, and everybody was, on the team was chatting about it, going, oh, I think this is going to be good. So it's kind of nice looking back at that time before anyone had seen anything, and we were filming, we'd filmed the 5 programs for it then to take off so quickly. It was great. That was terrifically exciting.
What was your funniest or most chaotic moment?
I designed a shelving unit, which was kind of a room divider as well. So it was kind of on a high tensile steel structure with floating shelves, designed really to showcase the owner's collection of teapots, which she'd collected for many years. Really beautiful collection, which I displayed. But then the shelves got overloaded on the bottom. There were lots of books coming in, and I was thinking, they feel like they might just like be a bit heavy, which they were. And then the whole thing collapsed. Every single teapot was shattered on the floor. It was really such a devastating moment.
Oh my God.
So that was particularly bad. And everybody remembers that.
I actually watched it recently.
We had a lot of fun generally shooting that program. I mean, I always loved it when the designers had finished. So me, and there was always 2 designers per show, and we'd scarper out of the room. Carol Smiley would come in with the house owners to surprise them with their room. And we'd always be behind the door listening, which obviously nobody knew. Viewers wouldn't have known that, but we were always like, oh, do they like it? And it was always a thrill when people loved their rooms. I mean, you kind of put every ounce of effort in, and there was very little money. It was done on such a tiny budget, and you did as much kind of change as possible in that space. So you were always working incredibly hard. The days were really long. So for them to really love it was great. I just loved those reactions.
Yeah, that's your reward, isn't it, for your hard work?
Exactly.
Did you ever have one that really hated it? Or
No, I never had anyone that really hated the room. I had my very, very, very first program. The couple went in with Carol and looked around, and he really loved it. But she was a little bit like, ooh, I'm not sure I like this at all. But it wasn't this is absolutely ghastly, I hate it. But she wasn't so keen. And I think that was as bad as I got.
Oh, that's pretty good then, yeah.
So I'm chalking that up as pretty good.
That's a win.
Yeah.
What happens, do you know, do they literally, you just go off the show and then you just left in the room, and if they want to fix it or change it, that's their problem?
As soon as that programme had finished, Carol Smiley went back to Scotland. We got in the car and went home, and that was it.
Oh, I'd have you come to mine if you wanted to, Linda,
It's a bit brutal, I think.
Would you allow someone to do it to yours?
No.
Well, you don't need them to be fair.
No.
So when you walk into a new room, a blank canvas for the first time, what's the first thing that you're drawn to? What do your eyes go to?
I think when you're planning an interior space, you approach it in different directions, really. Sometimes it's the room itself that you are just really drawn to, and it's the light's great. Maybe it's got architectural details. Or sometimes it could be just a white box and you're looking to see how to start the scheme. And that could be driven by the owner. So it could be, I think a house should reflect the owner's interest. So you're looking for clues, but they can come from all sorts of directions.
Yeah, so you're working off instinct, really.
You're kind of working off instinct. You've got a bank of kind of images that you want to use, and you've seen fabrics that you're really interested in, colours that are new coming through and you want to experiment with.
Yeah, and I suppose, like you said, you've already got like a bank of ideas and materials and suppliers and things that you might want to use. So yeah, you could pull from that.
And I've always created mood boards, be it from magazine scraps before social media, and always developing your ideas on paper before, because that's probably the most exciting phase, apart from maybe the end when you're handing over a project. But it's exciting to kind of get all your materials together and how you will make, the fabrics look, the paints look, the furniture look, and putting it all together onto a mood board, a concept board, is really exciting.
If you had to describe your design style in 3 words, what would it be?
I like salvage materials. I like old materials. So I think that's where the bohemian edge comes in. It's not easy to ask an interior designer for their 3 words, is it? But let's say bohemian, natural, and authentic.
Yes, brilliant. I think that really describes you, yeah.
There you go.
You've spoken a lot about using sustainable materials, so I know that's important to you. And also you said you like to restore things and bring old pieces back to life.
Okay.
So what kind of materials do you think are important for people to be using more of rather than just throwaway culture?
Oh gosh, that's a lovely question. I mean, I've always been a fan of painting furniture and old furniture and, charity shop stuff. And I still do that. I love it. There's a wardrobe here that I use as a glass cupboard. I knocked out the panels, replaced the solid panels with glass and put glass shelves in. And now that's where I store my, glassware. So I love it. I mean, I think there's just a beautiful kind of sense of achievement when you're using a piece of old furniture, which is usually really well done, really well built, and you're just kind of adapting it for a different purpose. So it's something I do a lot of. I like that aspect of changing an old piece of furniture. I'd rather buy an old piece of furniture and restore it, paint it, wax it, rather than, using a lot of, I hesitate to say brands, but, new furniture that'll fall to bits in a few years.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing about that is that, like you said, you've got a sense of achievement and it's budget friendly, isn't it? And you can make it what you like.
It's budget friendly. You can make it what you want. And also when you put that piece of furniture into a room, it's unlike anybody else's room. It's very unique and fresh and original, hopefully. And it's, those pieces can be really iconic.
When you walk into a space, what small details instantly tell you that something's been well made?
I think all those things that you touch, like a good handle, like the surface of a tabletop, all of those kind of speak in detail. They are the things that give you a lot of pleasure. To open a cupboard door with a really great handle is a very good thing. To switch on a light, which has got a really beautiful fitting, is a very nice thing. Those day-to-day things that make your life work. So all those details, which essentially is, down to someone designing the product, when they're done right, you can tell.
Yeah, it's like an experience using them, I suppose, isn't it? That's adding to the overall feel of the...
Yeah, I just think it brings that sense of luxury into an everyday moment.
What do you think makes something feel genuinely premium rather than just expensive?
Fit for purpose and something that feels good to the touch, or, you know, you use it and it makes your job a whole lot easier. Something that's designed well makes all the difference.
Do you think when people are planning renovations or interiors, that functional things that ultimately make the space, like architectural details, doors and fittings, are slightly overlooked compared to like paint finishes or wallpapers and furniture?
Absolutely. I mean, they really are overlooked. It's very easy to overlook, you know, those details that make a room perfect, like the doors, like the threshold strips, like the switches, all the kind of unsexy stuff, really, that needs thinking about before you even look at a paint palette or a you know, swatch of fabrics. All those details need to be absolutely right before you start. Because that will just make the whole room cohesive and just hang together really beautifully. For me, flooring, doors, and light detailing is really good to get right. It's like the foundation, you know, you get your foundation right, and then you can put the layers on top, you know, the added decoration and accessories on top, but you need that fundamental base. And if you don't get that right, it can be a really irritating thing that is, you know, really breaks a good interior.
Yeah, I agree. We get a lot of, you know, people that are doing big projects. So it's understandable because you want to jump straight into the nice things, don't you?
Yeah.
But then they've not really thought out the layout and how the doors are going to open and things like that. And it is very important because, like you said, it ultimately makes or breaks. And they're an investment ultimately.
Yeah.
So it's worth investing in thinking about it.
Many rooms can have quite a few doors. Like my kitchen here has got, let me think, 4 doors coming into it. So that can be a real source of irritation if the doors are not right, or doors that clash, or they don't, you know, clatter together, or don't open how they should. So all that kind of traffic through a space is important to get right. All that hard work in an interior is the stuff you don't often see, but when it's done right, it's done beautifully. It you know, it just flows. A room will just flow.
Makes it effortless, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's hard to get those details right, and can be a big part of the budget. When really, you know, ultimately, when people walk into a room, they'll see the color or the light fittings or the curtains or whatever it is. There's a lot of kind of thought process that goes on before all those even hit a room scheme.
What do you think makes something architectural rather than just functional?
Something that's inherited within a building, usually. So it could be the shape of a fireplace or the size of a room. But that's not to say you can't introduce that element into just a kind of basic space, because you can play around with those ideas. Particularly at the minute, I'm thinking a lot about archways, because it's a trend that's coming in. I love arched doors and arched entranceways. I think that is a really beautiful shape to introduce into almost any room, like particularly a bathroom. I'm really loving arches. So that's a way of, you know, if you were moving into a very, very modern house and you were thinking about altering a door space or maybe creating a shower space, to add, you know, some kind of arch, for example, would be a really nice way of impressing your kind of architectural style onto a space. It's something I'm starting to look at a lot, actually, is those arch details. It's definitely a trend, but I think it's got longevity.
I mean, I love arches. They're really nice, aren't they? Just instant drama, aren't they? So,
I mean, you could paint an arch. I could paint an arch onto a flat wall, and you've already created some kind of, you know, some kind of shift, and you're forced to look at a wall in a different way.
At iSteel, we manufacture bespoke steel glazed doors. So I'm curious, from a designer's perspective, what kind of thing do you think makes a beautiful door?
I think it's so much nicer to look through a glazed panel that has got some kind of definition to it, be it an arched door, or be it that the glazing panels are broken up in some way, because then you can see the beauty of the door, but you can see through, and then you can light it behind, or, there's so many different ways of playing with glazed doors and glazed panels.
Focal point.
Yes. I think they can look astounding. They can really kind of change the look of a space. If you think like, a solid wall just shuts off a room and it just encases that room. But I love seeing a room after a room, and maybe sometimes even a third room behind. You get that lovely sense of depth. And it sounds obvious because, obviously you're going to be able to see through a glazed door. But I think when you break up the glazing panels, it becomes something really, really interesting. And to play with light and space like that is just such a nice aesthetic. It makes for a very beautiful space.
What would your iSteel door look like? You like handles, finishes, glass types?
I mean, I love reeded glass, and I love smoked glass. Some might have an element of that. I think I love the way glazing is broken up with panels. So I'm definitely going to play around with that. And I love the kind of arch shape as well. So and colour. So, you don't have to stick with, a regular metal colour, although I do like the bronze finishes. But to think about a powder coated colour, like I'm really loving like an olive green at the moment. And there's lovely tan colours, like almost like a rusty metal finish, like a Corten effect. I really like. So there's a lot of ideas that you can play with when you're thinking about just a glazed door. Touch will obviously be important. The handle's super important.
What would you say the biggest thing you've learned throughout your career about the way that people truly live in their homes and how you've designed for that?
Oh, I think people live in their houses in such a beautiful way now. I think maybe when I first started in this on this career path, people were looking at show houses and wanting something very flashy and, very polished and neat and tidy. But I think now there is a much more kind of relaxed attitude towards your own home and your own home decorating. I think people want it to really reflect their personalities, their quirks, and their unusual, whatever makes them different and individual. So I think that's a big shift in interiors. So I see a lot more colour being used, a lot more pattern being used, a lot more decoration, a lot more kind of detail. And I think that's really liberating because people aren't afraid of expressing themselves at home, and our homes are super important. It's where we're nourished, and it's where we get us into inner strength, really.
Oh, that's really nice. Nice that you've actually seen it change like that over a period of time.
Yeah.
Because, I suppose ultimately it's true, isn't it? You want to go home and relax, not like live in a flash box. So
yeah, I mean, living in a flash box might tick somebody's boxes, but it's for me, it's much more about dogs sitting on your sofa and comfortable chairs that don't necessarily match, and an expression of colour and pattern, and all of those kind of details make for me a really nice home. I often suggest if people are doing their own home decorating is to look at a great restaurant or a great hotel or a great place that they visited. And there's no kind of accident that places like Soho Farmhouse and Soho House in general, their interiors are very soft and lived in and very relaxed, and they could use, battered leather chairs or a bit of recycled stuff or a bit of salvage stuff. Very expensively done, but, it's an aesthetic, I think, that is very now. It's very comfortable and kind of reassuring in lots of ways. It makes people feel instantly relaxed. Their use of, they might have old timber on their walls and rusty light fittings, and it just makes people very comfortable. And that, I think, is a look that's very much copied, very much envied, and very much kind of the kind of hero to look at is when interior design is done very well.
What advice would you give someone who's wanting to go into interiors?
I think passion goes a long way, just to have that kind of love of doing what you're doing. So, initially, I would encourage everyone that wants a career in interior design just to, look at all those spaces that we've mentioned, hotels, restaurant, but understand what it is about those places that work or don't work. Look at all the magazines, look at the books, have just that interest in the career that you want. An experiment, do your, if it's a young teenager thinking they want to get going in this career, do your bedroom, do your living room, your parents' living room, just get your hands dirty and experiment, and be practical as well. Understand what it is to, plumb a bathroom. Understand your job from, not just the decoration, but from the fundamentals. Look at how a door hangs in its space. Does it open one way? Does it pull another way? Look at how a kitchen operates, but understand those details. Pull a drawer open in a kitchen showroom and just feel, is that a great drawer? Is that, how does it feel? How does it look? And how does it experience? How does that whole thing hang in your experience? That makes for an interesting conversation that will, if you love it, you can just keep going with it until, it becomes a job, and then it becomes a career, and then it becomes, something that you ultimately just makes your life happy.
Yeah. So do it because you love it, ultimately.
Ultimately, do it because you love it, because you've got a passion for it, because that will take you a long way.
So what projects are you working on at the moment?
Well, I'm hopefully going to be working with you guys on some ideas, because I know we initially fell in love with you guys because of the doors, and I'm going to be using some doors in some interiors, which is super exciting. But because you seem a very innovative company going forward, open to different ideas, and, I'm going to throw some great ideas your way, maybe, because I love glass and steel together. And, a cupboard is essentially two doors or even a single door. So, I'm working on kind of ideas with you on furniture, which I hope you'll be interested in. I am also, I'm working on a couple of properties, a lovely barn development. And I also work with a fabric company. I have a really nice job. So I'm doing very interesting projects.
Well, thank you, Linda. It's been brilliant, lovely to meet you. Your fantastic home.
Well, thank you. But don't, I say, check the details out. But look, I've got holes in my ceiling and a little wreath's falling down.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Stephen.